Hey, how's it going? My name is Gus Brandon. This is the first video for Backcountry Ballistics. It's going to be a YouTube channel kind of dedicated around some gear reviews and some demonstrations of, some long-range precision shooting and some hunting stuff. But the goal of the channel is to produce some videos that are educational and give guys some real-world reviews and things that are not bought and paid for, but kind of some honest real world and kind of application, real world application, and some real world reviews on some products that you guys might want to be buying. So the first thing we're going to review is the Aero Precision Solus. There are a lot of different variations of this gun. You can buy just an action, a barrel action, a complete rifle, and we're going to kind of go through my experience so far with the Aero Precision Solus. It's a really good experience so far. A couple of hiccups and stuff like that we'll get into, and some things that definitely kind of warn you guys about before you purchase either the action, barrel action, or the complete rifle. But overall, I've been impressed with this setup. Obviously, it's a kind of setup right now that works best for me, but we're going to kind of go over the different options and kind of tell you guys what my thoughts and impressions are of this action, particularly right now, but kind of the whole system they have going in general. So Aero Precision Solus, they came out with this action about 2 years ago at this point. I think they revealed it at SHOT Show 2023, and then it really started hitting the market like 2024, about halfway through or so. So I purchased this action and a barreled action, 6 Creedmoor action, barrel action. It came with their 26-inch Sendero taper barrel. That gun shot really good. I really liked it. It was an awesome gun. I put it in initially a KRG Bravo stock, and then later on, obviously, I'm in the Manners LRH now. But that was a great setup. So I have some groups that I shot with that here. This was kind of during low development stuff. This was a 0.37-inch group out of that barreled action. So it's capable. It took a little bit of time and a little bit of effort and low development, but for the most part, put a good solid bullet on top of some good solid powder in a good case, and the gun shot pretty well. I don't think I shot a lot of groups over an inch, even through low development and stuff like that. Barrel break in, that kind of stuff. I will say the barrel surprised me. I kind of have some opinions about factory barrels sometimes, and that one seemed to do really well. So I was pretty impressed with that barrel. I put about 800 rounds through it. I did see some neck corrosion kind of starting to appear. I'm sorry, not neck corrosion, but chamber corrosion and stuff like that. That was pretty aggressive, I felt like, for that round count. It wasn't anything that was 3,000 rounds down it, and then started kind of seeing the chamber start falling apart on me. Started seeing some really deep hitting and some things like that. I'll try and link a picture in this video of what I was seeing. Again, is it the biggest deal in the world? No, it's a factory barrel, but it was, probably could have kept shooting it. I didn't see any accuracy decrease. Probably could have kept shooting it for another 1,000 rounds and probably been okay. But going into 2025, I really wanted to shoot more NRL hunter competitions, and so obviously they have a power factor of 380,000. So your bullet weight times velocity has to equal 380,000. So kind of the easy button to do that is with a 6.5 Creedmoor, and that's what I did. That's what I did at the beginning of this year. And I put just a Proof Research, just a pre-fit barrel. So they make, there's a number of companies, but Proof makes a shoulder pre-fit, so you don't have to mess with the barrel nut and that kind of thing. Real easy, unscrew the previous barrel. I bought a cheap barrel vise off of Amazon, unscrewed the factory barrel, took quite a bit of torque, probably somewhere in the 100-pound mark or so. Most factory barrels are pretty tough to get off. This one was no exception. But once I got it off, threaded the Proof barrel on, and kind of went to town. In its current setup, this is where I have the most experience with this rifle, and where we'll get into some of the pros and cons, if you will. I'm just going to kind of run back to front of what I have it in, and obviously I think a good bedding job, a good solid stock, good rings, and a decent scope are going to get you a lot further than getting very nitpicky about an impact precision action over a factory TK action. But run through it back to front. So like I said, Manners LRH stock, the Aero Solus action, Night Force NX8, the 2.5 to 20. I have Seekins rings, obviously the Trigger Tech primary trigger, proof research barrel, like I stated, a Atlas bipod, and then a Salmon River brake on the front, the 4-port. And so this is where, like I said, I've had a lot more experience shooting the action and everything in this configuration. So I shot 4 NRL hunters this year in team competition, and my partner and I shot pretty well in a lot of them, and he shot better than I did in most of them. But we'll get him on this YouTube channel this winter and kind of talk about prep for NRL hunters and things to do and some things like that if you guys are interested. But again, so as it sits right now, I've about 1,200 rounds through this system, and I've been super impressed. Like I said, the barrel, taking the barrel off, putting this one on, really easy process. It takes a little bit of know-how and obviously a torque wrench and a barrel vise, but it's one of those things that I've done a couple times now, and the more I do it, obviously a little bit more comfortable I get. The first time you do it, it's super scary. Definitely invest in some go and no-go gauges just to make sure you're in a good spot and not doing anything dangerous. But overall, really easy process, and that's something that's cool not only with this action, but a lot of actions on the market today is you can order a pre-fit barrel, you can change calibers easily, you can shoot a match with a 6 GT and then change it out and go, especially this action, you can change it out and go like hunting with a 6.5 PRC or something like that. So we'll get in a little bit more detail about the action itself and kind of the review. So it's obviously a 700 footprint. That's kind of the base standard, I feel like, in actions. I know there's a lot of momentum with the Tika stuff, and they're great actions. They do a really good job. But the 700 is just kind of tried and true. Obviously this is not a Remington at all, but the footprint is nice because you are able to swap between stocks easily, swap triggers easily, and some things like that. So 700 footprint, it's a 60-degree bolt throw. It's a 3-lug configuration. That 3-lug configuration is interchangeable, which is really nice because you can pop the bolt out, push one pin out, push this center pin out, or the bottom pin here, push it out, swap your bolt head, and you can jump up to a short action Magnum really easy. So 6 PRC, 6.5 PRC, 6 SOM, 7 SOM, stuff like that. So you could literally, with the same action, shoot a match and then go hunt with it too. That's a really cool thing and a big reason why I purchased this action and setup. It also comes with a integral 20 MOA rail. That's really cool because that's just one less thing to come loose. So as you can, I don't know if you can see or not, but I have a bunch of witness marks and stuff like that. Like I'm pretty, something I check all the time. It's just torque on my action, obviously my action screws, but obviously the scope ring tops, scope ring bases, and obviously I have witness marks on my muzzle brake and things like that just to make sure if any of that does come loose, I at least have a visual reference to look and see, oh, okay, it's loose, and recheck torque. So before any big hunt, before a match, stuff like that, go through and recheck all your torque specs and everything, and it's a good habit to be in. But the integrated rail kind of takes the necessity of pulling the scope off and checking the rail screws themselves and checking torque on that. That thing's machined on there and it doesn't move, which is great. So it's got dual ejectors in the bolt head, which is great. It's got a kind of traditional plunger ejector as well as an M16 style ejector. It's got actually dual plunger ejectors. Never had an issue with ejection, never had an issue with feeding either. Seems to be really great. The 2 magazine types that I have shot through it are a Magpul AICS and then a MDT 10-round AICS. So the bottom metal I have on here is a pure precision bottom metal, just kind of M5 knockoff type thing. but been really impressed with them. Zero feeding issues. Obviously the Magpul mags, you have to run your bullets a little bit smaller, a little bit shorter, so your ogive or your coal can't be quite as long in the Magpuls as they can in the MBTs. But regardless, we've had a lot of issues feeding, zero issues feeding, and been really good. So the fluted bolt body it claims is just kind of this cutout on the bottom here. I shot a match this spring that was incredibly dusty and incredibly dirty. Didn't have a lot of issues with the bolt. It definitely felt a little bit grimier towards the end of the match. I shot with a buddy was on our squad that shot with like a Defiance totally fluted bolt. I think that's probably a little bit of an advantage in those types of situations, is having a completely spiral fluted bolt or something like that, just to help kind of keep that grime from clogging up. I never had any failures of the action during that match, and I mean honestly that was dustier or dirtier than my guns ever get hunting. I keep them in a cover. I keep a cover over them while I'm hunting. But in extreme circumstances, that was kind of a good test of this action, and I felt like I did a really good job, honestly. Again, the trigger, being a 700 footprint, is a 700 compatible trigger as well. So I have a Trigger Tech primary in here, nothing fancy. They've never had an issue. I've shot very cold temperatures, very hot temperatures. That very, very dusty match. Saw a lot of triggers around me go down, and never had an issue with mine. Actually, yeah, so been really, really impressed with that trigger, but the whole setup in general shut off. Point of impact has shifted just slightly between 105s and 108s. I'm assuming that's pretty common in most guns, but I was impressed with this rifle in that configuration. So yeah, the gun shoots really well. The factory barrel, the factory Sendero 6mm Creedmoor barrel, shot really well. Can't state that enough. I was impressed with that thing. It shot great through a lot of different loads I shot through it. Started out at a really moderate load. As I broke in the barrel, kind of got the gun going, then I stepped on it a little bit and got it up to a pretty good speed. Obviously it was a 26-inch barrel, so getting over 3,000 wasn't too difficult. And the 108 shot really, really great through it. I think I was around 40.5 grains of powder or so of H4350, and yeah, shot awesome. So killed a deer in that configuration last year. Yeah, the gun was great. Obviously with the 26-inch Sendero taper, full taper on there, it was a lot heavier gun. I also had it in a KRG Bravo stock, so added a lot of weight. The gun was a lot heavier last year when I killed that deer, but it was a great shooting gun, and that's something that I'm going to kind of go a little bit further into some details, and I'll get into kind of final thoughts at the end. But coming into this year, wanted to lighten everything up. It was super easy to do again, and it shoots really good. So kind of getting into some thoughts and then actual reviews of it. So Aero Precision is a gas gun company that does a lot of kind of adult Lego type stuff where you can buy an upper, buy a lower, buy a trigger assembly, buy a bolt carrier group, and kind of get to shooting. You can kind of piece stuff together. You can also buy full guns from. But overall, it's a cool company. They're out of Washington. They do a good job with the gas gun stuff. I actually have one of their gas guns as well. It shoots good. It's fun. They're seem to be a pretty common company when guys are kind of learning to build ARs and do things like that, because you can kind of piece things together and put your gun together. I think that's what they were really trying to do with the bolt action precision rifle stuff, was do the same thing, where you can buy an action or buy a barreled action if you don't feel comfortable turning on a barrel, or you can buy a complete gun and just get to shooting, and that's really cool. The options are really great with that, because right now a lot of guys, if you don't want to go full custom and pay a gunsmith all the money to put a gun together for you and cut and chamber a barrel and stuff like that, there are a lot of great options for grabbing an action, grabbing a prefit barrel, or grabbing a barreled action that's from a reputable gunsmith or something like that, and then putting it in a stock, bedding it yourself, and kind of feeling like you have a part in it, which I think is really cool. And I definitely agree. Like I enjoy, I don't want to say building guns. I'm not a gunsmith, but putting them together and building them for my standards. So I think that's really cool, and I love where that's going with the precision world. But long story short, or long story medium, I guess, with the Aero Precision Solus, all the way through the 6 Creedmoor configuration I had, so about 800 rounds. The gun shot really well. No issues with feeding, no issues with ejecting, and then kind of towards the tail end of that, maybe the last 50 rounds or so with the 6 Creedmoor configuration, I started having some weird light primer strikes. So, obviously cleaned the bolt really well, kind of checked seating depth of the primers. Obviously when I was reloading and hand loading, just checking to make sure I was getting even pressure on the hand or on the seating of that primer. And it just kind of kept happening every once in a while. Started off a little bit here, a couple times there. Never really consistent on the duration in between when it would do it and when it wouldn't. And then as I kind of started looking into things, with most 700 clones, it has a pretty simple bolt to pull apart, a twist on the back here, and it pulls out the firing pin and firing pin spring. So obviously this was a pretty new action at the time. I couldn't find a lot of information about, hey, when should you replace the firing pin spring? How many rounds? How many dry fire? That type of thing. But eventually I kind of went down the rabbit hole of thinking that was my issue. Was the firing pin spring was maybe worn, even though I didn't have a ton of rounds through the rifle. I do dry fire a lot, in the garage, practice positions, that kind of thing. My best guess was obviously I had about 1,000 rounds of live fire on it, and my best guess was probably had somewhere in the 2,000, 3,000 to 5,000 range of dry fire, But did the configuration, kind of just brushed under the rug. Did the swapping, put the new barrel, new stock and everything on it, and then as I was breaking this barrel in, it kind of became a bigger issue where I was getting the light primer strikes. So, it went from 1 every 50 rounds or so to kind of 1 in like 10 rounds or so I would get a light primer strike. I pull the bolt out, you can see just a faint mark of a dimple on the primer. And so I was kind of curious because I was running the CCI 34s, which is kind of their primer that's built more for a reciprocating bolt type of action, so like a AK, AR-10, excuse me, stuff like that, where it's maybe they're a little bit thicker cup for the primer. At the time they were cheap, and I found a bunch of them, so I just kind of went with it and stuck with it. Also, I sent at that point, so we'll call it say January of this year, I sent an email off to Aero Precision and just asked them, hey, I'm having this issue. Do you guys recommend anything? Is there any things I can do to try and remedy the issue? Is it possible to buy a new firing pin spring or a new firing pin assembly from you? And didn't hear anything back for a week or so, and kind of kept having the issue. Obviously, I had this new gun built. I was pretty excited to keep shooting it, so I shot it a lot. Kept having the same issue. About 1 in every 10 rounds or so have a light primer strike. So reached out, tried calling Aero Precision. They don't have a customer service phone number, and so kind of tried working it to where I called the company and just tried to talk to somebody. I would be on hold for hours trying to get a hold of somebody to talk to, and couldn't get a hold of anybody to talk to. That was really frustrating because, is this a, super duper custom rifle that I spent $10,000 on? No, but I still spent a good amount of money on it, and, to not be able to talk to somebody when I had an issue was pretty frustrating. Instead, what they kept or what I kept hearing online and stuff like that and seeing recommended was their online customer service. I don't know if it's a bot or not. I never actually got to talk to it, but it felt kind of like a bot, where you sign in, you state your question, and then you get put to a queue. And again, I would wait hours in that queue, and I would be number 1 in the queue, and the next one to get talked to for an hour and a half, and I just would never get to actually be put in a position to where I could talk to somebody. That was super frustrating. Eventually, I responded to an Instagram comment from somebody saying, hey, love the action, love the, he was doing a review on it as well, and he's a pretty predominant figure in the precision world. I responded and said, hey, love this action. It does everything I wanted to. I just wish I could talk to somebody when I had a problem. And then shortly after that, I received an email from Aero Precision saying, hey, sorry to hear you had an issue, and what can we do or whatever. And I was like, hey, I responded, I just really want to buy a new firing pin assembly. I don't care if I have to pay for it. I don't care if I have to do anything, or I don't care what I have to buy. I just need this problem fixed, especially on a match gun or a hunting gun. The last thing I want to do is get behind the rifle, especially on an animal. But even on a time stage, it'd be a real bummer too if you get behind the gun and it goes click but not boom. So talked to them. They were super nice to talk to through email when that happened, and they sent me out a brand new firing pin assembly and actually a couple springs. So I have a couple extras now, which is great. Threw the new ones in, took the old ones out. When I put the new ones in and checked the kind of the length of the springs, if you will, from the old one to the new one was clearly stretched out and kind of not great. There was a lot of waves in it, and it was a little bit longer than the new one, which was nice and compressed and straight. So put that in with the new firing pin. Shot it a few times right before we went to our first match this year. Shot it a handful of times. Everything worked great, and went to the first match, and this was in February or so, or excuse me, end of February, early March, and went and shot the match. Shot 200 rounds. Never had an issue, and haven't had an issue since. Knock on wood. But that was kind of frustrating, and that's kind of the only gripe I have about my experience with the Aero Precision Solus is if you're going to produce a product and honestly a great product. It's an awesome action for the price. The configurations and everything are awesome. I have no complaints about the action, other than if I ever have a more serious problem with this action, I'm going to be kind of waiting around until I can get a hold of somebody finally from Aero Precision to talk about my problem. Again, this is in September of 2025. I haven't tried to reach out to them since probably May or so. So I don't know if they've solved that issue. Just reading forums online and YouTube comments and Instagram comments, everybody has the same problem where they might order something from Aero and then it takes a long time to get it or something like that. And they try to get a hold of something and they can't. So Aero Precision, if you guys can figure out how to solve that issue, I think there's not many actions in this in this price point that do better. And that's my experience with it. I hope other people have had a completely different experience where they've had zero issues with it, or maybe they had a problem and reached out to them and they got to them right away. But yeah, again, this whole YouTube channel is going to be based on honesty and kind of what I have, or non-biased or non-paid for reviews. I know there's a lot of YouTube reviews out there right now on this action that guys have maybe put 20, 30 rounds through because they were given a rifle and they love it. And I agree, there's nothing to not love about it. The price point's awesome. The feature list is incredible for the price. And so yeah, the barreled action is around $1,200 for the barreled action on their website. And then of course you put it in whatever stock you want, muzzle device, scope, trigger, and you're off and running. So yeah, it's a really good deal. I think the accuracy I've gotten out of the gun has been phenomenal. I think to be honest, I'm not a super tinkerer with loads. I get something that shoots about a 1/2, 3/4 inch with a decent SD, and I just shoot it. So if will it shoot a 0.1 inch 10-shot group? Well, I don't know. That's not really what I try and do. I try and have a decent accuracy and a decent SD, and I just go shoot. So as far as an F-class gun, I don't know, probably not. But if you want a good NRL hunter gun, a good PRS gun, and a great hunting rifle, like I really think there's something to consider. I really hope they fix their customer service issue, and also the firing pin issue too. If that's something that multiple people are having, I hope they've changed that. But the customer service issue is kind of the biggest hang up for me. Honestly, I'm gonna end all these videos saying would I buy another one or would I buy it again? On the Aero Precision Solus, Probably, yeah. I probably would buy another one. I think it's the value that you get with the product, whether it be a barrel action or something like that. Like, I think it's really good. I think probably one of the standout features for me was when I bought just the barrel action was how good that barrel actually was. Putting a scope cam, bore cam down it and everything, it was cut clean. There wasn't any jagged edges in it. The chamber seemed square. Obviously, I don't have a lathe to really, or whatever tools you need, I guess, to check the squareness of the chamber. It seemed pretty good though, and it shot really good from day one. So from day one to when I pulled that barrel off, it shot well. And so, I think that, did I get a good barrel? Maybe. Does somebody else have a completely different experience? I hope not, but maybe, maybe there's some out there that just don't shoot well, and that could be the case. And I think whenever you get into like factory barrels, that's a risk that you're running is, one barrel to the next, to the next, to the next. Kind of depends on how sharp that reamer is and who's doing it and that kind of thing. So I can't say for certain on that, but my experience with their barrels was really good. And if I were to buy it again, that's probably exactly what I do, is buy another barrel of action and put it in another stock or something like that, and that kind of thing. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the Aero Precision Solus. I'll try and clip in some videos and photos of it in action and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a really good option, and I definitely suggest that people look into it if it's something they're interested in. I just will forewarn anyone, once you buy it, you're kind of on your own, and it seems to be kind of the general consensus out there with other people as well, is once you purchase one, you better know how to work on it, because you're not going to have customer service. So if they can fix that, absolutely 10 out of 10 would recommend. But right now, yeah, we'll leave the video, and we'll see you guys next time.